Despite the Chicago Bulls having 6 players scoring in double digits and 3 players scoring at least 20 points, they fall just short against the Cleveland Cavaliers, losing this game 119 to 113. We're going to talk about it all and more, break it all down right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today. And the Bulls have a competitive loss against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's really unfortunate. This was the Bulls showed a lot of energy and a lot of fight in this game, and they just fell short to the better team. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a much better team than the Chicago Bulls, and the fact that the Bulls were able to keep this game competitive and close throughout the entirety of this game, it shows a lot about the fight that this team had on their home court trying to get this win. And I want to be there and be focused on that first, right? And this goes back to the thing that we've talked about over the last couple of episodes here at Chicago Bulls Central, is the fact that this Bulls team is going to make some things interesting at times. They're going to compete at times. Absolutely. And they have a lot of talent. And if the offense is locked in and shooting well, you're going to see some really good things from this Bulls team. Now, there are some mixed with the good and the bad with this team, of course. We still allowed 35 points off turnovers in this game. That's unfortunate. And we still allowed 56 points in the paint in this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, again, it keeps being the Achilles heel. And when you start seeing the things that just are consistent for this Bulls team in losses, it really does continue. Like having 35 points off, giving up 35 points off turnovers. That's huge, right? 20 turnovers in this game. You look at the discrepancy, like had the Bulls just been able to take better care of the ball, this game would have been even closer. And the Bulls may have had a chance to win this game. They out-rebounded the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is really good in time like that. They outshot the Cleveland Cavaliers in this game. We shot 49% from the field and 36% from three-point range. They shot 43% from the field and 33% from the three-point range. So we got to the free throw line and hit our shots at an 81% clip. They did get to the free throw line more. They had a 75% clip, though. They get 5 more points from the free throw line than the Chicago Bulls did. And it's just, again, that execution piece, right? That's what it comes down to. When you have talent, and for a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers, that core has been together now going on, 3 years, right? And they're really playing the best that they've had as a core over that time during this stretch. And the Bulls just did not have that execution. It's unfortunate. The Bulls had the lead for 13 minutes in this game. Both teams had near double-digit leads at one point in this game. And the Bulls, like I said, we're not gonna say that this isn't a game in which the Bulls did not compete. We're just not. We're not going to say that this isn't a game where the Bulls didn't compete. The Bulls did compete in this game. But unfortunately, when you come down the stretch for it, turnovers completely killed the Bulls. 4 turnovers from Josh Giddey, 5 turnovers from Kobe White. You want better from your point guards, right? Players that are playing the point guard position for you, you want better. But let's not overlook it. Every starter had at least 2 turnovers in this game. The starters have to be better. That just is what it is. The starters overall have to be better. Zach Lavine gave some great minutes today. 26 points. He leads the Chicago Bulls in scoring. He has the highest plus minus for the team at plus 18. This is the first game in which Josh Giddey, I think, walks away with a positive plus minus. He has 18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 block from him as well. You look at Kobe White, he goes 5 of 13 from the field for 20 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, 7 rebounds. And then Nikola Vucevic with 20 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And Patrick Williams, who had 10 points and 6 rebounds in the first half of this game, finishes with a double-double. Patrick Williams out-rebounds Nikola Vucevic, 13 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block from Patrick Williams. Really solid game for Pat. Of course, I would like to see him score a little bit more in the second half after what he scored in the first half of the game. But you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. Like, this team fell short today, and they did it as a team. And this is one of those losses where no consolation prizes or anything like that. But for a team in the Chicago Bulls that haven't always looked as connected as they had, this team did look connected today. It very well looked connected, and so we'll see how that keeps going, man. But we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going, and just see how the Bulls can build off this. It's another one of those things where the Bulls can take a lot from this game and try to build off of it going forward, and we'll see what we can do. So it is what it is. But the Bulls it just really sucks when you fall just short like this, right? 6 points. You look at the fourth quarter of this game, the Bulls get outscored by 3 points in the fourth quarter. And it just the Bulls were there, man. But it's something to be said that you in a game against the only undefeated team left in the NBA, a team on an 11 game now 12 game win streak, you competed with them every step of the way. Every step of the way. So, that little bit of credit is given for what it is, and let's just see what we can do. This game was lost in the third quarter. We were up by 8, then down 8, and in the fourth, the turnovers killed us. People had 9 rebounds, but Tony Snell is still better. Tony Snell's not better. Tony Snell wishes his best game is barely what Patrick Williams' worst game is. Tony Snell is not better. You should be mad. That game was all us. 20 plus turnovers is ridiculous. Yeah, it was definitely ridiculous. But that's what the course has been for the Bulls, unfortunately. Like, turnovers have been one of the biggest Achilles heel, and some would even say the biggest Achilles heel of this team on the season so far. Why does Kobe continue to jump in the air without knowing what to do? He'll always turning the ball over when he does this. He got to be better. Got to be better decision making. Give me one reason why I shouldn't end it all. I mean, if the Bulls got you at that place, brother, your life is in a really bad spot. The official bogus as fuck. They don't respect no Chicago teams. I mean, listen, you want to get the calls, you got to play well. You got to play well to get those calls. So, Kingpin says good game overall, solid game overall. Overall, I mean, not a perfect game. They made some really big mistakes that ended up hurting them in this game for sure. Right? You cannot overlook the mistakes that were made by the Bulls. But here's what I'll tell you: if and again, this depends on how you look at coaching, right? But a coach. Any coach that's halfway decent should be able to look at this game and say, all right, bet. This is what we need to work on coming out of this game because we did this, and this pretty well. And you got to adjust. Like, the Bulls continue to use some of their worst lineups the most. That's something that is still plaguing this team. That has not remotely been solved yet. We are still using our worst lineups the most. It just is. It's hard to overcome that. Is there any way to lose a game? If there's any way to lose a game, this is it. They show great spirit out there. Not a lot to be ashamed of besides the turnovers. The turnovers and the points in the paint. I'm sorry. The Bulls are giving up a ridiculous amount of, like, you can't average almost 60 points in the paint given up per game. You just cannot do that. So, that's another thing. And again, so you got, I like to be real and honest. The points in the paint is really ugly. It's really ugly. You got to stop that. You can't give up tons of points in the paint and give up easy looks by the turnovers. They got to figure one of those things out. Johnny Quest Haize, I need therapy, please. Thanks for the channel. I mean, listen, this is what it is, man. This is what it is, man. This is what the season was going to be. You're really complaining over THT getting 1 minute? That's what we're complaining about today? In the name of, in the year of our Lord 2024, we're complaining about 1 minute to THT. Jay Collins says, I never talk down on my Bulls, but damn, man, this was a frustrating loss. Well, listen, I don't view it as talking down, to be honest, right? You should be able to be honest. And so, criticism is a thing. And nobody's beyond criticism. And this Bulls team has garnered a lot of reason to criticize them. They just have. Giddey giveth, Giddey taketh away. That is crazy. But, hey, CNI Plus, not going to lie. We lost, but I saw a lot that I did like. And that's crazy without how many turnovers we gave up, C-Red. Yeah, the turnovers, really got to get those turnovers together. You got to get those turnovers together. Haize, I know you don't like talking about the Bulls trading players, but they have to move some players. We keep doing the same shit. Well, the thing is, it's not that I don't like talking about trading players. I don't like the trade talk where people are just like, oh, we can just trade this and we can trade this. And if oh, it's like the things that I hate are people leave comments like this. Oh, it's simple. We just need a 6'7", a 7 foot person who can rebound, stop Giannis, and they be able to score 18 points. It's like you realize that would be one of the best players in the NBA, right? Like that's the thing that I hate, like the theoreticals. But at the end of the day, too, you got to realize where this team is. This team is not in a place where they're going to be looking to trade a bunch of guys to fix where they are. Like this Bulls team could very well be this bad by design. And of course, we won't know that for sure until we get closer and closer to the end of the season and see what this team really does at the trade deadline. But there is that aspect of things as well for this team. So that's what it is. I just don't like the constant trade pitter patter that some I'm not saying all that some fans like to get into. Like it's some people just they don't even like to talk about the actual sport. They just like to talk about who can be traded for who, what, and when, and where. That's what I don't like to get into. We have been terrible at finishing through contact. Every time we get fouled, we can't finish the shot. Missing opportunities to have 3-point plays really adds up over time. And that's something that DeMar DeRozan brought to this team. Really? That's something that DeMar DeRozan, and that's an overlooked thing because not a lot of people can finish through contact, not as consistently as what DeMar did, right? Or even draw that contact consistently. And that's why coming into this season, one of the things that I thought I was like, hey, no matter what, like this is going to be a team that has to struggle to learn how to win. 26 out of 39 of our wins last season were in clutch. And a lot of part of that was due to DeMar DeRozan and what he's able to do in those clutch time buckets about hitting tough shots or getting to the free throw line or doing both. And so I always thought there was going to be a curve of this team, right? To learn how to win and how to close out games because they haven't had to do it before. As long as Zach Lavine's been in the league, he hasn't been a great closer. Kobe really hasn't been consistent in being asked to be that. Did lead the league in clutch minutes last year until his injury, but even then, it's not. Nobody would make the conversation to say, "Oh, well, Kobe's this amazing closer yet." He's not that yet in his career, right? So we still got guys that are really still learning how to do and how to execute in that aspect of the game, and it's a learning curve. It's going to take some time, and it's not as simple as some fans or even myself try to make it out to be sometimes. So that's another thing that this team is going to have to learn to go through and grow through over the course of this NBA season. Is how do you close basketball games? What's your process when you close games? Who's your closer? Who's the guy that steps up for you when you need a tough bucket, when your team is just down and just needs that shot, right? Those are things that are going to have to be learned by this basketball team. And we just don't have that consistently yet. We just don't have it yet. So, we'll see if it develops over the course of the season for the team. But, it may be one of those things that we just don't have this season. If that's the case, then that just is what it is. So, pressure bust pipes, and so did P. Will. That's crazy. First of all, that's a wild bar there, my boy. P. Will has to make open shots in the clutch, man. But what the fuck, Kobe? I can't believe he didn't make that pass. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of mistakes down the stretch of this game. A lot of mistakes down the stretch of this game. How is Lavine's trade value so low? I don't know if it is as low as what it was last season. Last season it was mainly low due to him not being healthy, right? We don't really know what Lavine's trade value is right now. There's some rumblings, right? But it seems like the contract is still the biggest thing really holding back a lot of teams from just being hugely into what Zach Lavine can bring to their team. So it's just part of the process, right? Narrative, things like that. Kobe sometimes plays too fast for us. Oh, that's a fact. You gotta learn to be controlled. Gotta learn to be controlled. Bro, where's MC at? I need a laugh. I'm sorry. Patrick Williams is Dodo Bird. He can't finish at the rim at all. How do you miss wide open, put back dunk, and walk down the court like nothing? I mean, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm just dying to know, does Giddey always force the ball with the bounce pass instead of an overhead pass? So many overhead passes missed into the paint. I mean, I that's something I have to go back and watch specifically to see if he does the bounce or the overhead passes, but Giddey's still a good passer. Kobe got to stop doing that shit when he runs into the paint, throws it to nobody. They playing fast with no purpose sometimes. Also, why play THT at all? Give up like 6 points ASAP. Listen, THT is right now, THT has kind of become one of those players that Billy Donovan just trusts, right? In some times where other players aren't getting anything. Another sub Sub 5 minute game from Modest Bucilis. 31 minutes from Iota Sumu coming off the bench. Only 10 for Julian. The lineups today were really where he relied heavily on his starters. And we've already talked about how the starting lineup is not the Bulls' best lineup by any stretch of the imagination. So, you got to get that together. Drift in the building says, even with the L, these games are important to make the team evolve for real. Not all day we play against a team with real defense. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is one of the better two-way teams in the league in the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, it is what it is. If they play like this more consistently, then we would have seen more wins than losses. They could learn a lot from this game. They played well for the most part. Yeah, I mean, you want to take away from what you can as far as winning wise. You need to. You need to. Now, this game pissed me off. Effing hate that Niang. Yeah, he always kills the Bulls. Every game he torches us. We were right there. We had this game. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You had it, but you couldn't pull it out, right? So it didn't. It like at the, it is what it is, man. 20 turnovers. 20 turnovers. That's always gonna hurt. Always gonna hurt. I got to put this blame on Vooch and Kobe. I don't care about what they did in the first, second, and third. It's the fourth that matters. I can create a montage of fuck ups Vooch did in the fourth. No, I mean, yes, as far as that. But no, what they did in the first, second, and third does matter because we're not in the game to win that game if they don't have the performance. So then we wouldn't even be talking about us being in a position to win the game in the fourth. We cannot eliminate what players did to get us in a position to win. But we also don't need to use that to ignore how they helped us or how they hurt our chances to win this game as well. Both things can be true. And so Kobe did and Vooch did a lot in this game to help put the Bulls in a position to win. Patrick Williams did as well. But these players, and that's where you get into the mental lapses of what's needed to close out basketball games. Because you can do a lot through the first three quarters. But it takes a different level of execution in the fourth quarter of close games. It just does. Quit boosting up Patrick Williams. He's garbage. He has more missed dunks than missed mades. Really, Kobe White froze. No, it's not boosting up. It's, again, y'all got to stop being so mentally weak that you think in talking about the positives and the negatives that is boosting somebody up. No, it's called honest criticism and review. It doesn't have to be all bad. You don't have to just say just the bad because of how things finish. And you don't have to say just the good for players either. It's called being honest in how you criticize, how you review, and how you discuss games. You can do all of it because there's always something for most players, a lot of players, that they do that's good and bad in games. Their mistakes hurt us big time down the stretch of this game. Big time down the stretch of this game. And you can't overlook that. Donovan's rotation in the third. Man, listen, every time Billy Donovan does something good, he takes it away a little bit. It just is what it is, man. The Bulls are bad, but fun team. What? Fun bad. Fun bad. That's the thing that Big Kev talked about. C-Dubs talked about it. Even think Big Dave has said that coming into the season over on CHGO. And yeah, it's fun bad. Antoine says, we miss Jalen Smith tonight. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, Jalen Smith, definitely his shooting, his energy would have helped a lot. Only 4 minutes and 30 seconds actually from Adama Sanogo today. To your point, this is the type of game DeMar would have won for us and inflated our win total, even though we had 20 turnovers. Saw him hooping last night. His king of the fourth shit was saving our ass a lot. Yeah, like the king of the fourth shit was real, right? It was real. And when I used to say things like DeMar DeRozan was artificially inflated this Bulls win total, and people were like, well, technically, isn't that what every superstar does? Yeah, every superstar adds wins, but I more so meant that DeMar DeRozan saved our ass in the fourth quarters of some games. There are games where the Bulls had no business being in the fourth quarters because of execution and things that DeMar was able to keep us in. That's why even in saying that the Bulls needed to move on from DeMar, you can still acknowledge what DeMar brought to this team and how he helped this team win basketball games. And the Bulls are missing that. The Bulls are obviously missing that. I feel as if Donovan needs to change his rotation pattern in the fourth quarter. Lavine and Vooch seem to always enter the game at the 7-minute mark, and we're playing from behind 8 to 10 points. I mean, you got to get guys rest, right? So I know we like to think of it as, I'm not saying that's necessarily what you're saying either there, H-Bomb, but you got to get players rest. And whether that means sitting them for 2 or 3 minutes or whatever it is, especially in a close game where you want to make sure they're going to have some fresh legs or as fresh as possible to end that game, you gotta make some sacrifices and some decisions to get your guys some rest where you can. And I think that's what Billy Donovan was trying to do. I think still overall though, right? I'm not denying what you're saying. Overall, we need our rotations to be better. I think that that's a clear thing. That's something that I've pointed out a lot here over the last few weeks. The rotations have to be better. They got to be better. And that's something that you hope that this coaching staff and team is going to be able to figure out at some point because, you know, it's not as simple. I want to be clear. It's not always as simple as I make it out either by looking at the analytics. Like, yeah, and me telling you, hey, these lineups score this. This lineup has this differential. It's not always as easy as saying, well, bet this lineup has a positive point differential. Let me put them out there because you got to see how they match up against other players. You got to dictate who's on and who's off the court at certain times, things like that. But the Bulls just got to be better in certain areas, man. And there's a lot of things that we can fix and that we can solve, and we just got to get better at certain execution with certain things. And again, this may not be the season where that happens. I want to be clear. Everything that's a problem doesn't mean you're going to find a solution within the season. Yeah, we like to think that that's going to be the case. It doesn't always mean that is, though. TC in that 1 minute gave two and ones. That's why he was subbed out immediately. Yeah, because he was trash. He was trash. Which is worse, 1 minute of THT or 1 minute of Javon? The ball headed hoe don't need to get in the game at all. Don't check in the ball headed hoe. Hey Haize, I know this is off topic, but is Ryan Arch still on the Windy City Bulls? Yes, and you would know this if you watched the weekly G League episode that I dropped late last night. You will know everything that you need to know about the Windy City Bulls because I catch up everything on even the Windy City Bulls because we are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. So there you go on that one. Just got to throw that little shameless plug in there. You benefit nothing with having Giddey on the floor. He scores two and gives it right back. No, that's not true. Now, I mean, his defense does help, but you can't say you don't benefit any. Because I tell you what, a lot of Vooch's points come off Josh Giddey assist. A lot of that. A lot of that is Josh Giddey getting Nikola Vucevic involved. Now, Kobe's gotten better at it for sure, and I'm not saying it just comes down to Josh Giddey, but the defensive aspect that you mentioned with Josh Giddey is there, and it is a problem, right? Now, overall, we're negative, and I said this before. Maybe I'll do a full episode on this to kind of explain what I mean a little bit more. The Bulls win almost every minute when Josh Giddey's off the court, and that is due to some defensive effort. And we're still seeing the best out of Kobe and Io when they're on the court together, which was our backcourt last year. So there is something to be said with that, but we can't say that he gives nothing. He does give something. So that's not. Have you seen Zach Lavine in fourth quarters over his career, MC? I know you like to use imagination, but you don't have to use imagination. We've seen it. Part of the reason why we brought in DeMar DeRozan here is because Zach Lavine just has not been good in fourth quarters of close games over his career. Now, I will say this as well. This version of Zach Lavine, with how locked in Zach Lavine has been defensively, especially this game, you definitely want Zach Lavine on the court. But it's not as simple as put the ball in Zach Lavine's hands and he's going to be able to score for you in close games. But as long as he's playing defense like this, he's still going to be able to help you out a whole lot. This is the most, I've said it before, this is the most locked in Zach Lavine has ever been defensively. The numbers back that up. The analytics back that up. Like this, Zach Lavine is on pace to have his first year where he's a plus defender. And I know that doesn't sound like too much, but it really is huge, right? You look at over the course of Zach Lavine's career, every year he's been a negative defender as far as teams score more points when Zach Lavine's on the court than off. This year, teams on average are scoring 3 points less per 100 possessions when Zach Lavine's on the court. Now, that's not all just due to Zach, but that does show that Zach has made a considerable leap. Zach Lavine has ranged anywhere between the bottom 8th percentile and the highest he's ever been in his career was in the 59th percentile as far as opposing teams' points per 100 possessions when he's on the court. Lowest 8th. This year, he's in the 65th percentile. While that's still not amazing, it does put him in having his first year of being a plus defender on the court. And that's something you got to look at right now. When Zach Lavine's on the court, teams are shooting less per 100 possessions. They have a almost 4% worse effective field goal shooting percentage. They turn the ball over more on top of that. Everything is better when Zach Lavine's on the court defensively. And that's crazy to be able to say if you watch Zach Lavine's career. It's crazy. Name the maiden call of the common Cleveland Jack. That's crazy. You guys played very well against the Cav. I respect it a lot as a Cavs fan. I mean, it was a good game. It was a good game. This was overall. If you weren't a fan of either team, I would think, and I could be wrong. If you aren't a fan of either team, and this just was the game that was on, and you watch this game, I think that most people will be entertained by this game. I think most people will be entertained by this game. The Bulls gave a lot of effort in this game, and it was a fun game to watch. I do love the Bulls are playing to win. I don't know about the Donovan and the organization. I mean, listen, we'll see. We'll see. And it may end up paying off. I'll tell you this, if this Bulls team and the players compete, right? Regardless of the result. Let's just look at the process, right? Sometimes things are about the process more than they are about the result. If this Bulls team, this young, scrappy Bulls team, is competing in every game, right? And you walk away from this season saying, hey, we competed. We just got to learn how to close out games. But also, hey, we competed. We played really hard. But we also got this top 10 pick coming, right? That could be the best. That could be the best outcome. Could be. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be. Yes, you're right. One, 2, and 3 quarters do matter. I would phrase it. Those quarters because complementary to your fourth quarter performance, because it's your fourth quarter performance that'll be the most important. Yeah, I mean, unless you have such a great first, second, and third quarter that you give yourself that large of a buffer. But yeah, in a close game, how you close matters. And unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls did not close this game well at all. They got to figure that out. Got to figure that out. Pat says, bro, I forgot we played today and missed the whole game. How do you forget that the Bulls play, bro? That's crazy. That's wild. It is what it is. Exactly what we all expect. This isn't exactly what we all expected Wayne hold. And no offense, right? But I can tell that you're more of a Giddey fan than a Bulls fan, and that's perfectly fine. Welcome to the party. We're all family here now, right? But is this the year before the full rebuild? That's the question. That is the question. Now, that isn't a very important question because if what like in the Joe Cowley article was right as far as that Bulls front office wants to give it 30 to 35 games before they trade everybody they moved a bunch of players at the trade deadline, and then they'll shift to focus on keeping their top 10 pick. If that's truly what this front office has planned, then everything's going according to plan. Everything's going according to plan if that's the case, right? They played hard today. We'll give them that. Not even mad about this game. Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to be mad about a loss, this is one of the games to do that in, right? Still sucks we lost because this was a winnable game, and you come down to your own execution. That was one of if you go back to my pregame or my pre-recorded episode, the daily episode today, I said it. I said that execution was the first thing on my list of what was a key to the Bulls being able to win this game is execution. You got to be able to execute. You got to be able to execute. So, yeah. We're attacking worse than last season and defend even worse. Changes have been made. Are these not good for the actual starting five? I mean, yeah, changes do need to be made, right? But here's what I'll say. The starting five still is your worst lineup per just about every metric. It's been your worst lineup for turnovers. It's your worst lineup for your effective shooting percentage. It's your worst lineup for your defensive rating. So you got to figure out some balance there. All these turnovers and many shooting droughts tell me they miss Zoe. Zoe isn't going to fix with that being a player that doesn't play much. So, yeah. No, you got to learn how to pair the analytics with the eye test there, brother. You got to be intelligent in how you use the analytics. You don't want to use any stats blindly, but stats and analytics, those are advanced analytics and just the box score stats are different things. You got to be able to use those and pair it with the eye test. But like even in your comment here, you're saying that nobody's brought up the Wayne Sheldon. I'm talking about over Zach's career. That's still on on some good teams with DeMar DeRozan and Alonzo Ball. So you can't ignore that either, right? Like you want to just focus on the fact that Zach scores well. That's cool. But if you score well and you're terrible defensively, that gives you a net negative. Now, he's being really good defensively this year. He still has a lot of room to grow. So we'll see. Billy Donovan safe. Matt Eberflus safe. What the fuck, Chicago? I mean, hey, Matt Eberflus and Billy Donovan might as well be the same guy at this point. Do you think there's any chance Bulls don't want Giddey back by the end of the season? Here's the thing. I mean, I think this, and there are a bit of politics played in this. You traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's still 22 years old. I think that the Bulls more than likely bring him back, but it may come via you got to go out and sign an offer sheet somewhere else. We'll match the offer sheet as long as it's not ridiculous. That may be what it's going to be. That may be what it's going to be. I'm not saying that for sure, but there's definitely a chance of that. So, MC, you're not as smart as you think. You're not dumb, just not good self-awareness. Hey, Blacksmith said it, I didn't. I just don't get how you can consistently through the first 10 or so games have 20 plus turnovers. I mean, that like I said, and I always go the 20 plus turnovers and the 60 points in the paint. Like that's just really weird. It's crazy, honestly. All right, we're now 11 games into the season. 11 of them. Turnovers might be a thing for at least this. Yeah, I mean, at some point, like turnovers may just be a thing this season. It may just be a thing. Maybe we save the streak busting for when the next time we meet them. I mean, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. How do you feel about Zach's passing lately? I mean, listen, Zach Lavine has always been able to be a good passer. I think people forget Zach Lavine was originally a point guard, right? So, like, he can pass. I think sometimes Zach Lavine doesn't always survey the field well, but he's doing really good passing wise this year. Like, this is the most complete version of Zach Lavine probably ever. And maybe he was motivated by all the shit that was talked about him this offseason. But this is the most complete Zach Lavine I think I've ever seen. So we'll see. You think we can win on Wednesday, Haize? We fought hard but came out short today. I mean, the Bulls are gonna have the thing is that the Bulls are always gonna have a chance to win games. The variance for them is so wide though, right? Because they're a team that it's so all over the place for them. We face the New York Knicks. This is a team that's not necessarily playing the best themselves. We'll see. But make no mistake about it. The Bulls could go on another 4-game losing streak, right? You look at New York, Cleveland, Houston, and Detroit's playing really good basketball right now. The Bulls could lose maybe all 4 of those games. Now, they could win them as well, but we'll see. We'll see. I remember the Wizards game 2 seasons ago when we needed a 3 to tie the game with like 2 seconds left. And I believe it was Zach who went to drive for 2. That's when I was like, okay, let's stick with DeMar. I mean, yeah, Zach Lavine has had his awareness issues for sure. He has his awareness issues for sure. We just got to ignore MC. Sometimes you just got to let people talk. And like, I'm not going to let MC get my blood pressure up today. Some people, you just got to let people. MC just wants to be the smartest person in the room without actually being the smartest person in the room. And sometimes you just got to let those people live. We give up so many point paints that Vooch should just shoot the ball for the other team. That's crazy. That's crazy. I agree. I feel his entry passes have been so much better this season. He's been able to get the ball into Vooch much more efficiently lately. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hypothetically, if Acme decides to finally commit to a rebuild, is it still worth signing Giddey to a 5-year, 20 to 30 million deal or 3 years, 20 to 30 million? I mean, it depends, right? Because even the Bulls going rebuild, they're still not tanking. I don't see AK ever going the route of tanking to where they're still not trying to win. It's how they win, and the players that they use will get us there. So I think that that's a part of it as well. The Bulls are never going to be this team that by full rebuild, I just mean that They move off of Zach, they move off of Vooch, but they're still going to be trying to compete. They're just always going to do that. So it is what it is when it comes down to there. If it's true they're considering trading a bunch of players and rebuilding, I'll be very okay with it. But if we continue with the construction of this current team, I'm okay with it. That's a great perspective to have on it. And we'll see what comes out. We'll see what comes out with it. But all right, y'all, man, I appreciate you guys so much for everything, man. I got to get ready to go do Locked on Bulls, man. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.